3 stories, and in every single one, the killer wasn't a random stranger, but someone who was right nearby. Jessie Blodgett returned home late at night after a play in which she performed the lead role. The next day, her mother walks into her room and finds her dead in her bed. The door hadn't been forced open, nothing was stolen, meaning the person entered without resistance, as if visiting someone familiar. One of those who fell under suspicion unintentionally gave himself away during questioning by mentioning a detail of the murder that had never been made public. Meagan Sharpton was last seen alive when she left for a meeting she thought was just a routine job interview. A few hours later, a passing driver noticed a fire on the side of the road. Inside, her body was found. There was no interview. It was a trap, and the call she answered was made from a burner phone bought specifically for that day. Miya Marcano disappeared on the exact same day her apartment's electronic keycard was used 30 minutes before the end of her shift. That same evening, the man who owned that keycard was spotted on security cameras in a different neighborhood, holding a blanket. The blanket turned out to be hers. It was that very detail that tied him to the crime scene. And now, let's break down all 3 stories step by step. In 2013, Hartford, Wisconsin, was the textbook definition of a quiet little town. The police here mostly handled minor traffic accidents, and residents never even locked their doors. This atmosphere created a dangerous illusion. Because everything around them was so peaceful, people felt like bad people simply didn't exist there. 19-year-old college student Jessie Blodgett grew up in exactly this kind of environment. She was an incredibly open and kind-hearted young woman. Jessie truly believed that anyone could be changed for the better through understanding, love, and art. She taught music to 30 local children and was an active advocate, speaking at student forums and presenting papers on women's rights. Jessie studied violence as a purely theoretical, social issue. This dichotomy proved fatal. The activist who taught others how to spot hidden threats turned out to be completely defenseless against a real-world psychopath whom she considered a close friend. On the night of July 15, 2013, after returning home from the wrap party of a theater season where she performed in the musical Fiddler on the Roof, Jessie noted a vague sense of anxiety in her diary regarding the pushy behavior of some colleagues at a pool party. She viewed this as a challenge to her activism, unaware that a deadly threat had already taken shape in the mind of someone with whom she had shared her deepest thoughts for years. Monday, July 15th, began like any other day for the Blodgett family. Jessie's father, Buck, left early in the morning for his construction business. Around 8 a.m., her mother, Joy, went into her daughter's bedroom to drop off some clean laundry. The girl was lying under the blanket with her back to the door, and her mother, knowing how exhausting the weeks of rehearsals had been, decided not to wake her. Joy left for work, leaving the front door unlocked, which was completely normal for Hartford. The killer would later use this gesture of care to build his alibi. At 12:15 p.m., Joy returned home to make lunch. Almost at the exact same time, one of Jessie's young students showed up on the porch for a piano lesson. The fact that her daughter hadn't come downstairs to meet the child instantly worried her mother. Going up to the second floor, Joy found the room in an unnatural, almost surgical order. Things had been meticulously cleared away, and the blanket was pulled over Jessie's body with manic neatness. When Joy tried to turn her daughter over, her world shattered. The girl's skin was ice cold, her face had a distinct cyanotic blue tint, and the marks of strangulation from a thick cord were clearly visible on her neck. The 911 call, logged at 12:38 p.m., marked the beginning of the largest investigation in the county's history.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Hartford 911, what's the location of your emergency?
My daughter is blue. I went to wake her up, and I just got home from lunch, and she won't wake up.
Okay, so is she breathing?
I don't think so, no. Jessie, she's cold.
She's cold?
She's cold. Oh my God. Her pants are all wet, and she's got, it looks like strangulation marks.
There are strangulation marks?
That's what it looks like. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Honey. No. No. Honey, no.
A task force led by Captain Mark Levinson rushed to the scene immediately. Captain Levinson immediately realized this was not a random robbery. A thief wouldn't have left electronics and money untouched. Furthermore, there were no signs of forced entry on the doors or windows. The killer clearly knew the family's schedule, waited for the mother to leave, and entered the house effortlessly. The attack occurred between 8:30 and 9:30 a.m. while Jessie was still asleep, which is why she didn't have time to scream. The investigation was facing a cold-blooded criminal, yet he still made fatal mistakes. The main anomaly was the body itself. Several hours had passed since the time of death, but Jessie's hair and clothes remained damp. Forensic experts determined that after the murder, the perpetrator stayed in the house for a long time. He took the girl to the bathroom and thoroughly washed her with household cleaning products in an attempt to destroy his DNA and any evidence under her fingernails. However, in his haste, the killer rolled a roll of gray duct tape under the bed. Forensics proved that this was exactly what he used to bind the victim's hands and feet, and her parents confirmed they had never owned such tape.
12 News' Christina Palladino is live in Hartford tonight. And Christina, police gave an update on the investigation, but it's providing little comfort.
Yeah, the latest from the Hartford Police Department here tonight is an email that we got on our phones earlier today. They had no updates on the investigation, but they did want to stress to the community there is no threat here in the Hartford area. Now, I spoke with several of Jessie Blodgett's friends tonight. They tell me she had no enemies, and they are trying to understand how this could have happened to her. Showing off her piano playing skills with her close pals was something Jessie Blodgett and this group of friends used to always do. But the last week and a half has been devastating to get through. They're in disbelief of Jessie's murder, and they're sticking close together.
She definitely made whoever she was talking to feel like they were the only person in the room.
Jacqueline was one of Jessie's best friends growing up together in Hartford. In fact, Jessie's parents asked her to paint this portrait of Jessie for her funeral. Jacqueline tells me she stayed up all night to do it.
I wanted to paint her. I've always wanted to paint her, so it was definitely a work of love.
Jacqueline and her friends say learning of Jessie's murder was shocking. The 19-year-old was found dead in her bed by her mother more than a week ago with strangulation marks to her neck. She had come home from a cast party for the local production of Fiddler on the Roof hours before. Police have only said they're in the process of an active investigation and that the public is not in danger. Jeremy Zellman is another friend from Hartford and studied music with Jessie at UW-Milwaukee.
I was just sort of in denial, I think. I mean, just because I can't imagine anybody who would wish anything ill against Jessie.
And according to court documents, police have interviewed at least one person of interest. Several search warrants were returned yesterday, but they have now been sealed. An autopsy on Jessie was completed, but it's not being released at this time. We're live at the Hartford Police Department. Christina Palladino, WISN 12 News.
While the headquarters in Hartford was working through Jessie's social circle, the police in the neighboring town of Richfield received a report from 19-year-old Melissa. 3 days before Jessie's death, she had been attacked in a wooded park during her morning dog walk. An unknown man, wielding a knife, tried to drag her into the thicket. Melissa fought back fiercely, grabbing the blade with her bare hands and forcing the attacker to flee in an old blue Dodge Caravan minivan. The victim put together an accurate composite sketch of the criminal, describing him as a very tall, pale guy in plaid shorts.
White male, 18 to 20 years of age, 6'2", 210 pounds.
Yep.
He had light blonde hair with very fair skin.
Yes.
Okay, and you said he had checkered shorts?
Plaid shorts, dark blue minivan, Dodge Caravan. I don't know what year. An older model, though.
A patrol officer recalled logging that same minivan on the shoulder of the park a week earlier and had entered its license plate into the database. The vehicle belonged to the Bartelt family. and their 19-year-old son, Daniel, perfectly matched the description. Captain Levinson instantly connected the dots. Daniel Bartelt was a former classmate and close friend of Jessie Blodgett. They had sat at the same desk for 3 years, belonged to the same theater studio, and shared a passion for music. What's more, at that very moment, Daniel was at the Blodgett's house under the pretext of helping organize the funeral arrangements, masking his sadistic nature behind the facade of a grieving friend. There were fresh scratches on his face and hands, which he claimed were injuries from working at a warehouse. Bartelt's arrest was handled quietly. The young man arrived at the station voluntarily, confident that he was only appearing as a witness, and behaved with conspicuous calm. Levinson's strategy relied on completely ignoring the Blodgett case during the initial phase of the interview. The detective focused entirely on the attack in Richfield Park.
Right? Yes. Okay. This happened at a park. And if you have any knowledge about what this is, that's something I understand. Yes. What kind of vehicle do you have? I drove my parents' caravan.
When Daniel was confronted with traffic camera footage and a report showing he had been fired from the warehouse a month prior, his technical alibi collapsed. The young man underwent a sharp psychological turn, confessing to the attack on Melissa.
And you were in your van, correct? Or your mom's van, or you just went after that girl, right?
His voice became mechanical, and he motivated his actions by an irrational desire to see fear in the eyes of a strong person and to break someone else's will. In an attempt to steer the investigation away from the more severe charge, Bartelt made his fatal mistake. He stated that he was guilty regarding the girl in the park, but had nothing to do with whoever bound Jessie with duct tape, assaulted her, strangled her, and washed her in the bathtub. At that time, the details about the use of duct tape and the washing of the body were strictly classified and had not been shared even with the parents. Daniel Bartelt blurted out information that could only be known by the perpetrator of the murder. Following the interrogation, the police obtained an emergency search warrant. In the wooded park where Bartelt's minivan had stopped an hour after Jessie's murder, according to his cell phone pings, investigators found a cereal box at the bottom of a trash can. Inside were the remains of gray duct tape, the cut edge of which perfectly matched the roll found under the victim's bed, a piece of cord with bloodstains, and wet wipes containing biological material. The laboratory DNA testing yielded a 100% match. Fragments of Daniel Bartelt's skin were discovered under Jessie Blodgett's fingernails, proof that the girl had fought back desperately, leaving those very scratches on his hands. The cord carried the victim's epithelial cells and the suspect's sweat. Simultaneously, the cyber unit decrypted the hard drive of Bartelt's laptop, exposing his double life. On the surface, he remained a quiet young man who wrote poetry, but his search history was packed with articles on forensic medicine, the stages of asphyxiation, and methods for concealing evidence using bleach. In a hidden sector of the drive, they discovered his own interactive short story titled Red is Red, where the main character reenacted, with detailed precision, a scenario of abusing a girl whose name and appearance completely matched Jessie's characteristics. The 2014 trial in the Washington County Circuit Court drew an unprecedented level of public attention. The prosecution avoided emotional arguments, building their strategy instead on the presentation of scientific and forensic evidence, three-dimensional models of the crime scene, GPS tracking data, and macro photographs of the strangulation marks matched against the texture of the recovered cord. The defense attempted to appeal to Bartelt's mental state, arguing that the young man was in a state of deep clinical psychosis brought on by being dropped from college. However, state psychiatric experts deemed Daniel fully sane, noting traits of classic antisocial personality disorder, narcissism, and a total lack of empathy. His actions on the morning of the murder were ruled as conscious, purposeful planning. Throughout the hearings, Bartelt maintained a mask of icy indifference, ignoring both his own parents and the Blodgett family. The procedural technicalities raised by the defense lawyers, who tried to challenge the legality of seizing evidence from the trash can without a prior warrant, were dismissed by the judge. It took the jury less than 3 hours to deliver a verdict.
Find the defendant, Daniel Bartelt, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as charged in the information.
Well, Mike, well, that guilty verdict came as no surprise to many people. It didn't make it any less emotional in the court. Families from both sides tell me tonight their hearts are heavy.
It's not a good day for anybody.
That's how the father of Jessie Blodgett describes the verdict after a heartbreaking trial. Daniel Bartelt was charged in the murder of his 19-year-old friend last summer. The guilty verdict coming after just 3 hours of deliberations. But Blodgett spoke briefly as he left the courtroom, fighting back tears.
Nobody won. Dan's family is a beautiful family who provided a loving environment. They're great people. I feel horrible for them today.
Including his DNA.
Jessie's screaming to us. She's screaming to us. She's telling us a story. His DNA is all under her fingernails, under her left hand, on her right hand.
Defense attorney Gary Schmaus argued evidence may have been contaminated and the state hadn't proved its case. Schmaus called this case a tragedy for both sides.
I just have compassion for both the Blodgett family and the Bartelt family for the very, very difficult ordeal that
Daniel Bartelt's behavior in court shifted over the years and became a complex subject of study for criminal psychologists. During his initial trial in 2014, he displayed an absolute absence of emotion and maintained a mask of slight arrogance. Back then, his final statement sounded more like a cynical philosophical manifesto. He lectured on the imperfection of human laws and claimed that his conscience was clear before a higher court. It was this image of a cruel sociopath without a shred of pity that entered all official reports and true crime chronicles, leading the judge to hand down the maximum sentence without hesitation. However, the years spent in a solitary cell at the Wapun Maximum Security Prison and a drawn-out appeals process drastically altered the convict's internal state. The biggest surprise of these later hearings came when Bartelt was once again granted the floor to speak.
Buck, Joy, I can't give you the answers that you're looking for. You say how you count the days and the hours, and I do too. I have every day. There's no hiding from yourself in a tiny concrete cell. I have a disgustingly innate ability to lie to myself that I have exercised far too many times in my life, but I refuse to hurt someone other than myself by doing that. This jumpsuit that I'm wearing, these shackles that I'm put in, don't make me guilty. And I know there's evidence that I can't refute that would make you believe that I am guilty. I know that you feel I may have enjoyed how painful this process was for some of you, and at my worst, I've had that quality. I've made terrible mistakes along that line, but the only reason that I went to trial at all is because I was told I would not be allowed to make an outward plea, to acknowledge that I couldn't refute the evidence and just accept sentencing without saying that I'd done something I hadn't. If I could have done that, I wouldn't have put any of you through this or my family. Judge Martins, for what you represent, I'm not trying to be combative, but I don't know whether I should fear you or loathe you. I struggle to understand someone who has, that any human should be given the ability to condemn his fellow man. But I do know that I pity you. I don't blame you for any of this, and I think you've been extremely fair given what you have to work with. I can't prove that I'm innocent to anyone, not even myself. I can't prove that Jessie was a beautiful person, though she was, and I still remember her. I can't prove that a sun that I haven't seen for over 400 days still even rises and sets, but I like to believe that it does. Buck, again, I think it's incredible that such ugliness has begotten such beauty, and I've seen that from your entire family. I saw that the day after Jessie died when I was with you. I pray for you, for all of you, and I hope that, I believe that someday I will be before a court that will know that my conscience is clear. I love you, and I'm so sorry for your loss.
This episode divided public opinion. Some viewed it as a belated but genuine awakening of a human conscience, while others saw it as a calculated move by his lawyers to ease his confinement conditions. The reaction of Buck Blodgett, Jessie's father, to the court's verdict shifted this tragedy into the realm of a profound existential drama. Under the glare of television cameras, the man rejected the role of a father thirsting for revenge and publicly declared his forgiveness of Daniel Bartelt. The public reaction was mixed, yet Buck demonstrated a deep understanding of the laws of conserving one's inner energy. In interviews, he described the mental process that led him to this stance. Buck realized that hating the killer was a destructive contract, binding the victim to the executioner for the rest of their life. Sustained rage would only feed the criminal and would inevitably lead to the breakdown of his own marriage, the loss of his business, and personal degradation. Forgiving Bartelt was an act of evacuating his own soul from the blast zone. Buck consciously separated Daniel as a human being from the absolute evil he had committed. He refused to waste time on curses, understanding that the state machinery had already isolated the perpetrator. Instead, he focused on analyzing the reasons why a young man from a stable family turned into a killer, concluding that modern society fails to provide young people with the tools to process their inner aggression. The transformation of the Blodgett family's personal grief culminated in the creation of the global foundation, Love is Greater Than Hate. The project was developed based on a study of Jessie's personal archives. Buck discovered that shortly before her death, his daughter had planned to launch a lecture series for high school students aimed at recognizing the signs of psychological abuse in teenage relationships, arguing that violence begins with an attempt to exert total control over an individual. Buck completely restructured his life, closing his construction company and channeling all resources into operating the foundation. He developed a unique lecture program adapted for male audiences. Students at military academies, sports teams, fraternities, and juvenile detention centers. In his speeches, Buck breaks down Bartelt's story as a technical process of personality degradation in someone who failed to seek psychological help in time.
Told me that all hope was gone, and Jessie was gone too.
That's the moment Buck Blodgett's life changed. A simple exchange with his wife the day his daughter was killed in July of 2013. Now he shares their heartbreak with others.
When this happened to Jess, I started self-educating, and I had no idea how prevalent this is and how violent it often is.
Her family started the Love is Greater Than Hate project.
People were just pouring out their hearts to us. It was unbelievable, indescribable, and it's still going on. 15 months later, it's crazy.
The goal is to talk to schools and groups of people, urging them to take a pledge against male-on-female violence. The community is rallying together. Out here in the lobby, they're selling these t-shirts, and they're hoping that for everyone that's sold, the message spreads a little bit further.
You know, every day, when I'm not on purpose, I'm in pain. And when I'm doing something and talking about love and forgiveness, then I'm good.
And he hopes by sharing Jessie's story, other families won't have to go through a similar pain.
Buck said something about his daughter that would later become his mission.
This has been a devastating blow, but honey, your strength is in me too, and love will always be stronger than hate. I forgive him every single day, and it's an ongoing practice, because I get mad, and I think about Jess, and I think about what she went through, and it was brutal.
Music was her passion, but just before she was murdered, male-on-female violence had become Jessie's cause.
By 2026, the Love is Greater Than Hate Foundation has grown into an extensive network operating across many U.S. states. Buck Blodgett believes that every prevented offense is a real continuation of his daughter Jessie's life. Her voice continues to be heard through a massive social franchise, proving that a properly directed will is capable of neutralizing the aftermath of the most devastating human madness. On July 1st, 2012, 24-year-old Meagan Sharpton was planning to spend the evening with her family. But just hours before they were supposed to meet, she got a phone call from an unknown man. He offered her a job caring for his elderly grandmother and set up an interview for that very evening. Meagan told her mother she'd head straight home right after the meeting. She never made it. Around 1:30 a.m., two teenagers spotted a fire along a deserted road in Tennessee. When firefighters put out the flames, they found the body of a young woman. Investigators quickly realized the crime had been meticulously planned. A burner phone, a fake address, an attempt to burn the body, the killer had done everything to ensure he'd never be found. But the deeper police dug into the investigation, the more the small details began to come together. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, leave a like on the video, and let's break down this case step by step. The city of Tullahoma, Tennessee, is a place where nearly everyone knows each other by face. It's a quiet, cozy town far removed from any major metropolis, living its own measured life. Erica Meagan Sharpton was 24 years old. All her close friends and family simply called her Meagan. She was an ambitious, hard-working, and exceptionally cheerful young woman. Meagan was attending nursing school just 2 months away from earning her degree. To pay for tuition and support herself financially, she juggled 2 jobs, working as a waitress at a local steakhouse and caring for the elderly at a nursing home. Meagan had a boyfriend named Chris, whom she had lived with for 3 years, and big plans for the future. On July 1st, 2012, Meagan was planning to spend the evening with her family. Her sister had come into town, and the young woman's mother, Kelly Sharpton, was waiting for her daughter to join them for a family dinner. However, in the late afternoon, plans changed. Meagan called her mother and excitedly announced that an urgent side job had come up. An unknown man had offered her a job caring for his elderly grandmother. The interview was set for that very evening, and the client had promised to pay for the work in advance if both sides were satisfied with the meeting. For a young woman striving to gain as much healthcare experience as possible, the offer seemed perfect. Meagan promised her mom that she would head straight to her family right after the meeting. But an hour passed, then 2, and Meagan didn't show up. Calls to her cell phone went unanswered. By midnight, the family and Chris's concern had turned into full-blown panic. July 2nd, 2012, around 1:30 a.m., a dry, hot summer night. 2 teenagers were driving down a Walt Road, a remote, uninhabited road in Franklin County. There were no residential houses in the area. The only landmarks were a small church half a mile away and a bridge. It was not a place where anyone would stop for no reason. Suddenly, through the trees, the teenagers noticed flames. Thinking a forest fire was starting, they immediately called emergency services. When the firefighters and sheriff's deputies arrived, they began putting out the flames, assuming someone had thrown a lit cigarette or left a campfire behind. But as soon as the fire was extinguished, a gruesome scene opened up before the responders. In the epicenter of the fire lay the body of a young woman, Meagan Sharpton. Her body was lying by the side of the road. There was no car and no personal belongings at the scene. No ID, no keys, no purse, no cell phone. She was unclothed from the waist down. The nature of the injuries and the position of the body indicated that she was already dead by the time the fire was set. The young woman's skull was fractured by a heavy object. The head trauma was exceptionally brutal. The police had no information on the victim's identity. No missing person reports matching the description had been filed in the county yet. The only clues were a nursing school t-shirt and several distinctive tattoos. Specifically, a tattoo of stars on her ankle and another star on her neck. In the morning, the police posted their first social media updates describing the features of the victim found. Kelly Sharpton saw the post on Facebook. Recognizing the description of the tattoos, the stars Meagan had gotten in honor of her siblings, the mother realized the terrifying truth. It was her daughter.
Joining us now is Kelly Sharpton. I'm sure this has just been so difficult for you and your family. Our prayers go out to you. How did you find out what happened to your beautiful daughter?
I actually read a post on Facebook where they had described a girl with a star tattoo on the back of her neck and one on her foot, and I knew that it was her.
When was the last time you talked to your daughter, and what kind of mood was she in? I understand she was saying that she was going to go over and visit a family, correct?
Right. My other daughter was here from out of town, and she had just woken up at 3:45 that afternoon. She'd worked the late shift at the restaurant where she worked and was planning to come over after that. She said after she got her shower she would come on, and she didn't come. But we were under the understanding she had an interview with somebody to start sitting with an elderly lady, and so we just figured she had gone on and gone to that interview, but we lost track of her after that.
If somebody is out there listening tonight and they saw something, what would you like to say to them as you are desperately searching for clues for your daughter?
Just please, if you saw anything, even the smallest detail, please call the police, call TBI or Franklin County Sheriff's Department. They've been wonderful. They've kept us up to date. They've left no stone unturned. They've just been great, and please call. She was our daughter and our sister. We just miss her.
The town was thrown into shock. A girl with no enemies, no connection to crime, who worked around the clock, had been brutally murdered. Franklin County Sheriff Tim Fuller immediately told the press that the site where the body was found was almost certainly not the actual crime scene. Meagan had been killed somewhere else and brought to a Walt road solely to destroy the evidence using fire.
First, it was a disbelief, like nobody wanted to believe that it was actually happening.
That reaction was pretty much universal at the Yamato Japanese Steakhouse in Tullahoma.
I was actually shocked.
Co-workers couldn't believe the news waitress Erica Sharpton, or Meagan as they called her, was murdered.
We were all just shocked because she never seemed like she was in any kind of trouble.
Friends say Sharpton was a busy 24-year-old who was balancing this job with nursing school and another job at a nursing home.
To try and get out of the restaurant business and get into a better career field, where she can accelerate.
What they don't know is what happened to her Sunday night.
The young lady's body was over here.
Sheriff Tim Fuller says deputies discovered Sharpton's body in this grass on fire early Monday morning. After putting out the flames, they discovered evidence of trauma to her head.
It appears to us that she may have very well been murdered at another location and was literally dumped here to dispose of the body.
The investigation began by looking into Meagan's closest circle. The first person to come under suspicion was her boyfriend, Chris. Their relationship hadn't always been smooth. Meagan's family noted that the couple argued and broke up periodically. Chris claimed that he waited for Meagan at home that night, and when she didn't return, he assumed she had stayed over at her mother's place. When detectives searched their shared apartment, they found traces of blood and syringes in the bathroom. Chris and his roommate, Robbie, were immediately brought in for questioning. However, that lead quickly fell apart. During interrogation, Robbie confessed that the syringes and blood belonged to him. He had been hiding a drug addiction from those around him, which neither Meagan nor Chris knew about. As for Chris, his emotional state, his shock upon hearing the news of her death, and an ironclad alibi from work ruled him out as a suspect entirely. Robbie was checked as well. It turned out he and Meagan had been having a secret affair, but a detailed analysis of his phone showed that he had been texting Meagan continuously all night and morning, having no idea where she had disappeared to. His involvement was also ruled out. Meanwhile, 15 miles from where the body was found on Three Forks Bridge Road in Bedford County, police located a 1995 red Ford Mustang. It was Meagan's car. The investigative team conducted a thorough search of the vehicle. There were no traces of blood inside, but on the seat they discovered a crucial piece of evidence, a handwritten note. It contained a specific address and directions. 850 Shelfer Road. Detectives immediately headed to the address, only to hit a dead end. 850 Shelfer Road didn't exist. It was a fake address. Someone had lured Meagan to a deserted area, having planned the trap in advance. During a follow-up interview with Chris, a key detail surfaced. He remembered that on the day of Meagan's disappearance, an unknown man had called her second phone. The caller was looking for a caregiver for his grandmother and stated that a girl named Naomi had given him her number. Naomi? Meagan did indeed know someone by that name. They had attended nursing school together the previous year. At the same time, panic began to spread through the local media. 6 months earlier, just 130 miles from Tullahoma, 20-year-old Holly Bobo had vanished under mysterious circumstances. She was also a nursing student. The press picked up the narrative. Was a serial killer operating in the state, specifically targeting nursing students? The atmosphere in the county grew intensely tense. Investigators located Naomi, Meagan's former classmate, but speaking with her only raised more questions. Naomi was genuinely shocked. She told detectives that she had never recommended Meagan for any job. Furthermore, the two barely knew each other. They had only carpooled to class a couple of times. Naomi firmly stated that she had not given Meagan's number to anyone. Detectives once again hit a brick wall. Soon after, the results of Meagan's autopsy came back. The medical examiner's report revealed horrific details about the final minutes of the young woman's life. Meagan had been subjected to severe sexual assault. She had been brutally beaten, suffering heavy blunt force trauma to the skull, likely inflicted by the handle or stock of a firearm. But the head injuries were not the cause of death. Meagan had been killed by a gunshot wound to the cheek. Meagan's mother, Kelly, made a public plea through the press to District Attorney Mike Taylor, begging him to expedite the investigation. The family was dying of grief while the killer walked the streets.
Needs with law enforcement to catch our daughter's killer before she says someone else gets hurt. Good evening, I'm Kim Chapman.
And I'm Calvin Sneed. The murder of Meagan Sharpton happened in Franklin County back in July. The murder left her family devastated and on edge, knowing her killer is still out there somewhere.
I wake up in the morning with the horrible realization that my daughter is dead and she's never coming back.
Meagan Sharpton was brutally murdered on July 2nd after she was lured to a home. She was raped several times and beaten. Her body was found burning on the side of the road in Franklin County. District Attorney Michael Taylor is overseeing the case.
The investigation is continuing, and hopefully we will have a successful outcome in the near future.
While the murderer walks free, her family is left with a gaping hole. Kelly talks about her son's connection with Meagan.
Really valued her and went to her for most of his advice and needs, and he's been devastated.
Sadness and grief have overcome the mother of 4 who promised to support her children through college. Meagan would be graduating from nursing school on October 26th.
I have to accept her diploma for her, and that will be joyous, but it will break my heart because it should be her.
The Sharptons are pleading for District Attorney Taylor to speed up the process and make an arrest in the case so no other woman get hurt.
12 weeks had passed since the murder. The investigation was moving slowly until Chris handed over Meagan's second, older cell phone, which had been left at home. It was that phone which had received the fateful call with the job offer. Investigators gained access to the caller's number. As expected, the number belonged to an unregistered prepaid burner phone. Officers began the painstaking work of tracing the history of the device. They managed to pinpoint the location where it was purchased. The phone had been bought at a local store in Tullahoma shortly before the crime. Detectives seized the store's security footage. The video clearly shows a man purchasing a prepaid phone. On the footage, he can be seen placing his personal cell phone on the counter at the moment of payment. It was obvious. The buyer was deliberately purchasing an unregistered secondary phone so it couldn't be traced. The cameras captured the man leaving the store and getting into a red pickup truck. Police quickly identified the man in the video as Timmy Gifford, a low-level local drug dealer. Upon his arrest, Timmy didn't try to deny it and immediately began cooperating with the investigation. He explained that he had already given the pickup truck to his brother Paul, and that he had bought the burner phone at the request of a buddy of his who had recently undergone surgery and allegedly couldn't walk to the store himself. As payment for the favor, the friend gave Timmy some of his pain medication. Furthermore, Timmy recalled a strange detail. After buying the phone, his friend texted him offering to trade his pickup truck for a Mustang passenger car. Timmy was surprised, as the friend had a large family with kids and the pickup was much more practical. When handing over the truck, Timmy noticed that the interior upholstery and carpet had been completely replaced. The owner explained that his wife told him to fix up the interior before selling it. The buddy, who had made Timmy buy the burner phone and then so hastily gotten rid of the pickup with the replaced interior, was named Donnie Frank Jones Jr., and his wife's name was Naomi Jones. The puzzle fell into place. Naomi Jones was the very same classmate of Meagan's with whom she used to carpool to class. Donnie Jones was her 37-year-old husband. Donnie was well known to local law enforcement. His record included 21 felony convictions, including burglary, forgery, and armed assault. Additionally, Donnie occasionally acted as a police informant. Detectives immediately drove to the Joneses' home. During his initial interrogation, Donnie claimed he didn't know Meagan Sharpton at all. However, when investigators pressed him, he abruptly changed his story. Donnie remembered that he had driven Meagan to class once or twice along with his wife. As for the night of the murder, Donnie claimed he was at home with his children and categorically denied the story about the burner phone. To project confidence, Donnie gave permission himself for a home search and voluntarily provided a DNA sample for analysis, claiming he had nothing to hide. The tension was rising. While the DNA samples were undergoing lab testing, the graduation ceremony for the nursing program took place at the college. Meagan's 18 classmates honored her memory. The seat where Meagan was supposed to sit was left empty. Her mother, Kelly, accepted Meagan's registered nurse diploma with an aching heart. Soon, the results arrived from the National DNA Database, CODIS. The DNA sample from Donnie Jones Jr. was a complete match with the evidence collected from the rape kit taken from Meagan's body. Donnie was brought in for questioning again. When investigators confronted him with the irrefutable DNA evidence, the criminal changed his story on the fly once more. Now he claimed that he and Meagan had been having a secret, consensual sexual relationship that they kept hidden. Since proving sexual assault based solely on that statement was legally challenging at that exact moment, police were forced to temporarily release Donnie. But detectives had no intention of giving up. Donnie was a convicted felon who was strictly prohibited by law from possessing firearms. Police received an operational tip that he owned guns. This provided a legal basis for a search warrant and Donnie's immediate arrest for illegal firearm possession. 4 months after Meagan's death, experts completed their analysis of the remaining evidence. The weapon. Ballistics testing determined that the bullet recovered from Meagan's body had been fired from a rifle belonging to Donnie Jones. Cell tower and GPS data. Mobile carriers provided detailed call logs and location records. On the night of the crime, the burner phone and Donnie's personal phone moved completely in tandem. Cell towers tracked their movement through 3 key locations: the site where Meagan was abducted, the family farm belonging to Donnie's relatives, and finally, a Walt Road, where the body was set on fire. The crime scene. On the grounds of the Jones family farm, investigators discovered a partially burned scarf that belonged to Meagan. It was there that she had been killed. An analysis of the burner phone revealed an even more chilling fact. Before calling Meagan, Donnie had dialed the numbers of several other women. All of them worked in healthcare or elder care in one way or another. Donnie was literally hunting, systematically calling potential victims. Remembering Meagan, whom he had crossed paths with a year prior, he used his wife Naomi's name to lower the young woman's guard, lure her to a non-existent address, and set a trap. Donnie's wife, Naomi, had a solid alibi. She was at work on the night of the murder and had no connection to the crime. No connection was found between Donnie and the Holly Bobo case either. Other individuals were later arrested in the Bobo case. On November 5, 2012, a Franklin County grand jury officially indicted 37-year-old Donnie Frank Jones Jr. on charges of 2 counts of especially aggravated kidnapping, 2 counts of especially aggravated rape, and first-degree murder. Donnie faced the death penalty.
On Tuesday, the Franklin County Sheriff's Office charged 37-year-old Donnie Jones with Meagan's rape and murder.
A lot of the things that they had shared with me make me know that this is the right person. Then when I started hearing how it all fell together, I had no doubt.
Hearing the charges against Jones and seeing him locked behind bars gives Sharpton a sense of satisfaction for her daughter and the community.
But she's filled my life with so much joy for 24 years. I'll just take that with me and try to learn from this experience.
Donnie Jones has 21 previous felony convictions ranging from forgery to aggravated assault. He had been in jail on an unrelated charge, and he now faces 2 counts each of kidnapping, rape, and murder. He's due back in court on November the 16th.
At the initial court hearings, he pleaded not guilty and even whispered to his relatives from the defense table, "I didn't do it." However, facing irrefutable evidence, the DNA match, the rifle ballistics, and the GPS data, Jones's defense realized that a death sentence was inevitable. In February 2013, Donnie Jones Jr. took a plea deal. In exchange for removing the death penalty from consideration, he pleaded guilty to first-degree murder. Judge Curtis Smith sentenced Donnie Jones Jr. to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Jones later attempted to withdraw his guilty plea, claiming that his attorney had pressured him and that his wife had been threatened. The court reviewed his petition and denied it, upholding the original sentence. The court sentence brought legal closure, but it could not heal the wounds of her loved ones. Meagan's sister, Carrie, later said, "If Meagan hadn't given her life, Donnie Jones would have continued luring and killing young girls. Meagan put him behind bars forever. She essentially saved others." But for Meagan's mother, Kelly Sharpton, the loss proved unbearable. The pain of her daughter's brutal death and the nightmare of the investigation broke her emotionally. In November 2013, a year after Meagan's death, Kelly Sharpton could no longer endure the grief and died by suicide. At the site where Meagan was found on that dry July night in 2012, a 7-foot memorial stands today. It is decorated with 24 stars, 1 for each year of Meagan's life, and a nod to the very star tattoos that helped a mother identify her daughter. Meagan Sharpton is remembered by the people of Tullahoma as a bright individual striving toward her dreams, whose life was cut short by the cruel trap of a cold-blooded predator. On September 24, 2021, Miya Marcano was supposed to fly home to her family for the weekend. Texting before boarding, that was the rule she and her family lived by. The text never came. Calls went unanswered. By nightfall, police entered her bedroom, through the window, because a bookcase was jamming the door from the inside. Inside, scattered jewelry, brownish stains on the pillow. Her packed suitcase remained right where she left it. Over the next 9 days, more than 100 people searched for her using helicopters and divers. On October 2nd, her body was found in an abandoned area, hidden in dense brush. Her hands and feet were bound with duct tape. The prime suspect became a maintenance worker at her own apartment complex. a man who had been pursuing her for months and had been repeatedly rejected. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe. There's plenty more interesting content ahead. Hit the like button, and let's jump straight into breaking down the whole case step by step. September 24th, 2021. Pembroke Pines, Florida. In the Marcano family, the day began as usual, but by evening the atmosphere in the house shifted to growing anxiety. 19-year-old student Miya Marcano was supposed to fly home for the weekend. Miya was a student at Valencia College in Orlando, while also working in the administrative office of her apartment complex, Arden Villas. She kept in regular contact with her parents and younger brother. By mutual agreement, Miya was supposed to send a text message before boarding the plane. However, no message ever came. Phone calls from her mother and father went unanswered. By 9:30 p.m. on Friday, her loved ones finally realized something unexpected had happened. The family contacted the Orange County Sheriff's Office requesting a welfare check at the young woman's residence.
Orange County Sheriff's Office, this line is being recorded. This is Operator Winstead. How may I help you?
Hi, I'm calling to find out if I can have a wellness check.
At 10:02 a.m., Deputy Sheriff Samir Paulino arrived at the Arden Villas complex. An initial exterior inspection of the building revealed no signs of forced entry or suspicious activity. The locks were intact, and the windows appeared untouched from the outside. The officer waited for Mia's roommates to arrive in order to gain access inside. When the police officer and roommates approached Mia's bedroom door, it turned out to be locked from the inside. Attempts to open it hit an unexpected obstacle. The door was blocked by something heavy. To enter the room, the officer was forced to open the window from the outside. The scene that opened up inside the bedroom was a stark contrast to the quiet environment in the courtyard. Chaos reigned in the room. Brownish stains resembling blood were visible on the pillows and bed linens. A packed suitcase stood on the table. Miya had indeed been preparing to leave for the airport. A careful inspection of the window revealed that the additional security locks previously installed by the girl's father had been broken off. Broken jewelry lay on the floor. A small bookcase was located by the door. This was what had been blocking the entry from the inside. Despite the obvious signs of a struggle and the presence of biological traces, the case was not immediately turned over to the Criminal Investigations Unit at this stage. Deputy Paulino temporarily left the scene to respond to other calls without securing the premises as a potential crime scene. While the police were gathering initial information, Mia's roommates and friends pointed out a key detail that had previously raised concerns for the young woman. In June 2021, a new maintenance staff member joined the Arden Villas apartment complex, 27-year-old Armando Caballero. According to witness statements, Caballero showed persistent and unwanted attention toward Miya. He repeatedly asked her out, searched for reasons to meet during work hours, and tried to make advances, all of which Miya consistently rejected. One episode documented in the interview materials involved a financial transfer. Caballero sent Miya $700 via a payment app with the note, "For being pretty." The young woman immediately returned the funds and expressed concern over his behavior. As was later revealed during the investigation, Miya was not the only person who had encountered such behavior from this individual. In March of that same year, 2021, a resident of another complex had reported persistent stalking by Caballero to law enforcement. After she refused to communicate with him, a heavy object was thrown through her apartment window at night. However, the investigation at that time did not lead to any charges. Around 4 a.m. on September 25th, while Mia's relatives were already at her Orlando apartment helping with the search, Armando Caballero himself unexpectedly appeared at the scene. Along with his roommate, he approached the area of the investigative activities. The presence of a maintenance worker at 4 a.m. outside of work hours raised direct questions from the family and the officers on site. When asked why he was there, Caballero claimed he had learned about Mia's disappearance from a mutual acquaintance named Tatiana. However, the friends and family present noted that no one in Mia's inner circle knew anyone by that name. In conversation with the relatives, Caballero denied any involvement in the disappearance and claimed he had not seen Miya before she went missing. However, the evidence of persistent messaging and financial transfers was already known.
But no one knows Tati.
But
You keep mentioning Tati and no one knows Tati.
You get a call,
the
all of a
roommates
sudden,
don't even know Tati.
You've been sleeping since
You
10
keep
o'clock,
saying
and all of a
Tati is
sudden
a
you're showing
friend.
up here at 4 o'clock in the morning
Because
looking
me
for
and
me.
Tati were conversating about it, so I finally, it came
Okay,
up.
but
Should I go
Tati
and
is
see
someone-
if I see anything?
No one knows Tati. That's my whole thing. Not
Tati
even the
is
roommate
an
knows
employee
Tati.
here.
She's an employee, but you keep saying Tati is a friend and that you've all hung out together. No one here knows Tati. All her
Well,
other
not
friends
all
showed up. Her
these
closest
people.
friends that live in the complex were all here with us early on. No one knows Tati. Only you. Whoever Tati is, and Tati's on the phone, she shouldn't even be on the phone right now. As of right now, you have
work
sent
tomorrow- you work
obsessive
tomorrow,
texts to
Tati?
Miya. We have all seen the texts. You talked about giving her your life savings. You cash out her money, and you claim that you weren't in touch.
Who told her gave
It's
her
on
life
text.
savings? I never
As a
said
matter of
that.
fact, we're going to get a police report to pull your phone records if that's the case.
What you have to do?
There's evidence of obsession, of something. You're fascinated with
It's
me.
not only from my side, so don't try to make this
No one,
like I'm a
no one's
stalker.
saying that. It takes
She's
two.
not here to defend
There's-
herself right now, so
obviously
we gotta
she's
talk to
missing.
you.
So we're talking to
And
you,
I
who've been going
completely
back and
respect
forth
that. I
on
understand
text.
that. That is your family.
Right.
But until we figure out what's going on, just don't beat me up.
Nobody ain't beating you
If
up.
I'm guilty, why
But you
would I
put
come
yourself in the middle right here. You brought yourself over here.
Because we're concerned.
You're concerned. Why weren't you concerned hours ago?
I just found out.
All right, cool, no problem.
So
In
how
the
did,
first few
how did
hours,
Tati find out?
we didn't think it was serious. I don't even know how Tati found out. She
Somebody's
told me-
missing and you don't think it's serious.
Someone
maybe
that
they hanging out. They got this place right here. They go downtown. I don't know. Maybe her phone's off. I don't know what she did.
She would use somebody's phone and call her dad or her grandmother, somebody.
she was supposed to show up for a flight and didn't show up.
At that time, officers on the scene lacked sufficient legal grounds to detain or arrest Caballero, and after questioning, he left the complex premises. On the morning of September 25th, missing persons detectives took over the case. A detailed forensic analysis of the electronic access systems at the Arden Villas complex was authorized. Each door in the complex was equipped with an electronic lock recording the exact time and identification number of the key fob used. Data from the reader on Miya Marcano's door revealed the following timeline of events on September 24th. At 2:14 p.m., 3 hours before Miya finished her shift, her apartment was accessed using a master key. This key did not belong to Miya or her roommates. The system log recorded that this master fob was officially assigned to maintenance worker Armando Caballero. A second entry using the same master key was recorded at 4:34 p.m. At 4:59 p.m., Miya Marcano herself returned from work to her apartment to pick up her belongings before heading to the airport. At 5:52 p.m., a security camera captured Caballero's vehicle driving off the apartment complex grounds. Later, at 7:01 p.m., a maintenance request for repair work in Mia's apartment appeared in the complex's ARSIS service system. The request was submitted under Caballero's name. A subsequent check revealed that neither Miya nor her roommates had submitted any repair requests that day. 10 minutes later, at 7:11 p.m., Caballero contacted security at the gate to enter the property. Then, at 7:16 p.m., the fob belonging to Miya herself was scanned at her door lock, though no physical entry into the unit was registered. Investigators concluded that the suspect had used employee access to break into the unit and wait for the young woman to return. On September 25th, at 8:47 a.m., Mia's relatives, who were conducting their own surveillance near Armando Caballero's home in Seminole County, noticed suspicious activity. Caballero exited the building holding a disposable glove, a backpack, and a pinkish blanket.
The blanket. Oh my God, that is my blanket.
Family members immediately recognized the item. The blanket belonged to Mia. Arriving officers obtained Caballero's voluntary consent to search his apartment in the presence of the girl's family. However, at that point, officers did not possess a formal judicial search warrant, which restricted police actions to a visual inspection without the right to seize items or open closed containers. At 3 p.m., Caballero freely left his apartment complex in his vehicle. An hour and a half later, at 4:30 p.m., investigative authorities officially declared him the prime suspect in the disappearance of Miya Marcano. A search warrant for his vehicle and residence was approved by the court only at 9:35 p.m. that evening, more than 24 hours after the initial police response. When detectives arrived to execute the warrant and conduct investigative actions, Caballero was not at his residence. His cell phone was turned off and his whereabouts were unknown. Concurrently, investigators pulled archival background data on the suspect. It turned out that 27-year-old Armando Caballero had a prior criminal record. In 2017, he was convicted of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. In 2013, he was arrested for using a homemade explosive device on the campus of Warner University in Polk County, where he detonated a makeshift bomb in a dormitory, calling it a prank. Additionally, a security guard at the Arden Villas complex informed police that on the very first night of the investigation, he personally spotted a screwdriver and a cell phone case on the back seat of Caballero's parked vehicle. However, due to the lack of a warrant, the vehicle was not searched at that time.
It's been 3 long days since anyone has heard from Miya Marcano.
Mia, baby girl, if you can hear me, if you're seeing me, we're here.
A desperate plea to bring 19-year-old Miya Marcano home, her family hopeful that she's alive and okay.
I believe Armando may have given us a sign that Mia's in the area. It's just what I feel personally in my heart.
Her family, some even coming in town from South Florida, joining volunteers Tuesday in the search for Mia.
And her father, speaking with Local 10 today, says he's beyond worried.
The relationship that we have is, it's like we communicate hundreds of times in one day, and to not be able to hear from her or know where she is, it's like really breaking my heart right now.
This is unusual for her.
Very unusual, yes.
On September 27th, law enforcement agencies assembled a sufficient evidentiary base to secure an arrest warrant for Armando Caballero on charges of burglary. However, police were unable to make the arrest in time. At 10:30 a.m., a 911 call came in from the manager of an apartment complex in Seminole County.
911, do you need police, fire, medical?
We found a suicide on property.
Okay, and is there a unit, or is that the unit number 525 where you found him?
No, they're in the garage. It's one of our garages, but we just store paint in there. So
okay.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, he's deceased. Is that beyond any help?
I believe so.
Okay, all right.
Dead, right?
Okay, we'll have an officer over there in a few minutes. You said it was a male?
Yes.
Okay, see you shortly. Thank you.
A man's body had been discovered inside a maintenance garage used for storing paint. Responding paramedics and officers pronounced him dead at the scene. 27-year-old Armando Caballero had committed suicide by hanging. The death of the sole suspect put the investigation at risk of a standstill, The primary source of information regarding the location of 19-year-old Miya Marcano was lost. FBI forensic units joined the search and recovery efforts. The main search tool became a detailed technical analysis of cell tower data, GPS trackers, and Caballero's mobile phone activity during the evening of September 24th. Cell phone records revealed that between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. on the day of Mia's disappearance, Caballero's phone was located near the abandoned Timber Sound Apartments, also known as Timberscan, complex in Orange County, approximately 18 miles from the crime scene. Investigators established an important fact. Caballero had previously lived at this complex and knew the area thoroughly. As of 2021, part of the Timberscan buildings were abandoned. The structures were dilapidated and surrounded by dense foliage and marshland. Caballero's phone remained at this location for about 20 minutes before tracking his movement toward another area. On the morning of October 2, 2021, search and rescue teams from the FBI and the Sheriff's Office concentrated their efforts in the abandoned sector of the Timberscan complex. At 10:45 a.m., Miya Marcano's body was discovered in dense brush among construction debris. Documentation of the scene recorded the following details. The victim's wrists and ankles were tightly bound with black duct tape. The young woman's mouth was also covered with the same black tape. The victim was wearing jeans, a bra, and a robe. Nearby lay a purse containing the t-shirt Miya was last seen wearing on surveillance footage, as well as her identification card. An official autopsy conducted by the Orange County Medical Examiner's Office ruled the death a homicide. Due to the onset of decomposition, the exact mechanical cause of death, asphyxiation or other trauma, could not be determined. The forensic report specifically noted, no visible bone trauma was found, and laboratory testing revealed no evidence of sexual assault.
The body was found in Orlando in overgrown brush amongst trash at a partially abandoned housing development called Timberscan Apartments. Mia's suspected killer, Armando Caballero, lived there once.
I do think that he was trying to throw authorities off the trail by going all over the place, by going up to New Smyrna Beach, maybe in an effort to, possibly get away with this before he took his own life.
Her grandmother said she's found a little peace, even with such devastating news.
I have to say, I thank God for bringing her to me. Because I said before, I wouldn't know what life would have been if I've never found her.
Forensic examination of Caballero's vehicle and the scene of his suicide yielded direct physical evidence. The black duct tape seized from the trunk of Caballero's car matched the tape used to bind Miya in both chemical composition and mechanical cut edges. Inside the garage where Caballero committed suicide, crime scene technicians discovered bloodstains and hair samples whose DNA profiles matched Miya Marcano's. During the examination of Caballero's body, injuries were documented on his hands and body, including 2 human bite marks on his fingers and abrasions characteristic of active physical resistance by the victim. The conclusion of the active phase of the investigation prompted large-scale reviews of the actions taken by the Orange County Sheriff's Office deputies who first arrived at the scene. The Professional Standards Division initiated a disciplinary inquiry. As a result of the review, the following protocol violations were established. Deputy Sheriff Samir Paulino, during his initial inspection of the bedroom on September 24th, failed to notify the duty supervisor of the brownish stains on the pillows and the broken locks on the windows. In violation of protocol, the case was classified as a voluntary missing person rather than a missing endangered person. This blocked the immediate dispatch of the duty detective unit from criminal investigations. Deputy Paulino refused to collect fingerprint evidence that a security guard had lifted from Mia's window using adhesive tape, stating the case was not a priority. Following the internal investigation, Deputy Sheriff Samir Paulino received a disciplinary penalty of a 150-hour unpaid suspension. His direct supervisor, Sergeant Kenneth Dale, received a 10-hour unpaid suspension for improper oversight of his subordinates' actions. Orange County Sheriff John Mina publicly acknowledged systemic communication failures and announced changes to operational procedures. Moving forward, if any circumstantial signs of violence are present at the scene of a person's disappearance, patrol officers are required to immediately transfer the case to the Specialized Missing Persons Unit. Miya Marcano's death exposed systemic gaps in tenant safety within apartment complexes across the state of Florida. The Marcano family filed wrongful death civil lawsuits against the management company of the Arden Villas apartment complex and initiated proceedings against the sheriff's office. The lawsuits allege that complex administration failed to properly check Caballero's criminal background upon hiring and failed to control the distribution of master keys. The lawsuit against the apartment complex was subsequently settled out of court for an undisclosed compensation amount. In June 2022, the governor of Florida signed Senate Bill 898, officially titled Miya's Law. The law established new mandatory standards for the entire residential rental sector in the state. Mandatory background checks. Landlords and management companies are required to conduct full criminal background checks on all prospective employees. Individuals with convictions for violent crimes or registered sex offender status are barred from employment in residential complexes. Key log tracking. A requirement was introduced to maintain a strict electronic or paper log tracking the issuance of master keys and electronic fobs, recording the time and the identity of the employee. Tenant notification. The minimum written notice required before entering a tenant's apartment for maintenance or repair work was increased from 12 to 24 hours. The victim's family established the Miya Marcano Foundation, a charitable organization dedicated to supporting families of missing persons and developing safety standards for student campuses and residential complexes. The investigation into Miya Marcano's case was officially closed in March 2022, with the release of a final 100-page report. Armando Caballero is documented in the records as the sole perpetrator of the crime.